And when he was asked about what Putin will have to do in return, he got a little vague. That makes it kind of hard to find peace. Sauron, very good friend of mine, big guy, came up to me once, big, strong guy, tears in his flaming eye, and he said, Ashnaz Thratatuluk,
Last week, I was having coffee with a friend who works at the State Department. Mid-sip, she almost choked when her phone buzzed with news that Trump had sent Marco Rubio to Saudi Arabia for Ukraine peace talks, without inviting Ukraine.
Trump has, he's been criticized for leaving Ukraine out of the peace talks. So yesterday, he said this.
That's like mediating a divorce where only the husband gets to talk, she said, shaking her head. That same night, Stephen Colbert tore into this diplomatic disaster on his show, comparing it to a surprise party where they forgot the birthday boy. When Colbert mocked Trump for calling Ukrainian President Zelensky a modestly successful comedian, pot meet kettle, my friend texted me, "This is why diplomats are drinking more these days."
Think of it, a modestly successful comedian, Volodymyr Zelensky, talked the United States of America into spending.
Trump's reaction to the segment? Let's just say the White House staff from his era probably had flashbacks to the plate-throwing days. When Colbert attacked this situation on his show, he didn't mince words. He referred to it as wet noodle diplomacy and likened it to hosting an unexpected party without inviting the honored guest. Although the crowd erupted in amusement, the joke has significant ramifications for real international affairs. It seems like Trump believes that the best way to resolve international peace is to exclude the nation that is actually engaged in combat.
Today I heard, oh, well, we weren't invited. Well, you've been there for 3 years. You should have ended it 3 years. You should have never started it.
When a late-night comedian needs to teach a former president the fundamentals of diplomacy, you know you've really gone astray. Trump's strategy, according to Colbert, is as successful as using a fork to eat soup. Excellent. When Colbert likened Trump's reasoning to accusing those wicked hobbits of stealing the ring from Sauron, the audience burst out laughing. Colbert's use of Lord of the Rings to highlight the absurdity of Trump's foreign policy is commendable.
That Russia started. No. It makes sense, folks, just like I blame those wicked hobbits for stealing that ring from Sauron.
Trump's claim that Ukraine initiated the conflict just serves to confirm what we already knew. Either he still has a strong crush on his autocratic boyfriend Putin, or he has no grasp of international politics. Trump's grasp of the war, Colbert noted, is as profound as a puddle in the Sahara. Experts worldwide concurred that Trump's remarks demonstrate his complete ignorance of the situation in Eastern Europe. The response from the international community was exactly what was expected. Colbert characterized the response from Ukrainian officials as a diplomatic form of, "Are you freaking kidding me?" The UN's response was essentially a professional facepalm, while European allies were perplexed and concerned. Everyone, with the exception of Trump, appears to realize that negotiating peace requires the participation of the invaded nation. The past praise that Trump received from Putin is now backstabbing him. Colbert drew attention to the fact that Trump was unable to specify what Russia would forfeit in these alleged peace talks.
And when he was asked about what Putin will have to do in return, he got a little vague. That makes it kind of hard to find peace.
This is because Russia has nothing to lose. The entire situation was a ruse by Trump to appease his authoritarian admirer while feigning concern for international harmony. Trump referred to Zelensky as a modestly successful comedian. This was one of Colbert's funniest jokes. Given Trump's own unsuccessful attempts at humor during those depressing rallies, where he babbles about windmills and toilets, the audience was aware of the irony. Before becoming president, Zelensky was at least really humorous and didn't have to buy people to find his quips hilarious. When you consider that Zelensky is battling for his nation's life, while Trump is unable to even battle his way out of a paper bag without wailing about it on social media, the whole situation becomes even more absurd. Colbert was careful to highlight this difference. While one leader is guiding his nation through an invasion, the other is unable to tolerate ridicule on television without going into full-fledged Twitter rage. What's the true joke here? The goal of Trump's peace plan was never to promote peace. It was just another pitiful attempt to appear concerned about international diplomacy while appeasing Putin. He was never serious about real solutions, as seen by his exclusion of Ukraine from discussions regarding Ukraine. Employing a fox to solve the henhouse's persistent chicken disappearance is akin to employing a fox.
Maybe Russia will give up a lot, maybe they won't, and it's all dependent on what is going to happen.
Trump's outraged response to Colbert's mockery demonstrates why comedians are so crucial at the moment. Comedians utilize humor to cut through the BS and reveal the truth when politicians attempt to deceive us with absurdity. Colbert is doing more than simply cracking jokes when he points out that our past president's diplomatic abilities are about as successful as using gasoline to attempt to put out a fire. Trump's approach to global issues is exemplified by the entire scandal. He puts himself first, disregards experts, befriends autocrats, and then becomes irate when others criticize his ideas. In addition to making us laugh, Colbert served as a reminder of the need of listening to what politicians are really doing behind their flowery rhetoric and pretended care. Trump's diplomatic fiasco ultimately demonstrates why we need comedians like Colbert. Sometimes it takes a comic to point out that the emperor isn't wearing any clothes when our political system fails to hold officials responsible. Furthermore, nobody wants to see that mental image of Trump. Not only can comedians like Colbert make us laugh, but they also serve as our BS detectors when politicians try to mislead us. Someone needs to bring out how foolish it is for Trump to send Rubio to mend Ukraine without inviting Ukraine. That is the role of comedians. Trump's peace negotiations without Ukraine are akin to me talking to your neighbor rather than you to solve your financial issues. At least it provides comedians with fodder, even though it makes no sense. Colbert will be there to remind us all that our previous president is bare-chested the next time the orange turd attempts to play the role of international peacemaker while omitting the actual warring nations. How then does the world's most powerful narcissist go about solving international problems? Destruction and shame in equal measure. Sending Marco Rubio, Trump's pal, to Saudi Arabia to mediate a peace deal for Ukraine overlooked one crucial detail. Nothing was invited to Ukraine. This is just as foolish as Trump's strategy. Even by orange guy standards, this was the lowest point of his diplomatic gaffes.
Also crippling other countries out there, starting with Ukraine. This week, he sent Marco Rubio to Saudi Arabia for Russia-Ukraine peace talks.
On his broadcast, Colbert confronted the situation head-on. Wet noodle diplomacy was his term for it. He compared it to throwing a surprise party without inviting the special guest. Despite the audience's outburst of laughter, the joke actually has serious consequences for the state of the world today. Trump appears to have the view that excluding the country actively fighting is the surest way to end the global conflict.
But Ukraine wasn't invited. It's clear that Trump is pro-Russia. His administration is saying Ukraine will have to make major concessions.
You know you've gone completely off the rails when a late-night comic feels the need to instruct a former president in the basics of diplomacy. Colbert says Trump's plan is about as effective as using a fork to eat soup. Great job! Audience members couldn't contain their laughter when Colbert drew a comparison between Trump's logic and accusing those wicked hobbits of taking the ring from Sauron. To show how ridiculous Trump's foreign policy is, Colbert deserves praise for using Lord of the Rings.
Sauron, very good friend of mine, big guy, came up to me once, big, strong guy, tears in his flaming eye, and he said, Ashnaz Thratatuluk, Ash.
Trump's assertion that the conflict was started by Ukraine just proves what we always knew. Either he still has a huge infatuation on Putin, his authoritarian partner, or he doesn't understand global politics. According to Colbert, Trump's understanding of the conflict is a puddle in the Sahara. Everyone in the expert community agreed that Trump's comments show how uninformed he is about the situation in Eastern Europe. The reaction from nations throughout the world was spot on. According to Colbert, the Ukrainian government's reaction was a subtle way of saying, "Are you freaking kidding me?" A professional facepalm was the United Nations reaction, leaving European allies confused and worried. It seems like everyone, save Trump, has come to the realization that the invaded nation must be involved in peace negotiations. Putin is now betraying Trump, despite previously praising him. On Colbert's show, Trump failed to clarify what Russia would give up in these so-called peace talks. Reason being, Russia stands to gain nothing from this mess.
Reminds me of that Gloria Gaynor song, maybe I will survive, maybe I won't. It's all dependent on what is going to happen.
And Trump's whole show was an act to placate his authoritarian fan while he pretended to care about global peace and harmony. For his part, Trump called Zelensky a modestly successful comedian. Among Colbert's most hilarious gags was this one. It was ironic considering Trump's own futile attempts at humor during those dreary rallies where he talks about toilets and windmills. Even before he became president, Zelensky had a great sense of humor and could make people laugh with his one-liners. It gets even more ridiculous when you think about how Zelensky is fighting for the survival of his nation, and Trump can't even get out of a paper bag without complaining about it online. Colbert made sure to emphasize this distinction. While one leader is leading his country in the face of an invasion, the other can't handle TV mockery without losing it on Twitter. I don't get the joke. No one ever intended for Trump's peace plan to advance peace. As far as foreign diplomacy was concerned, it was merely another poor effort to placate Putin. The fact that he avoided talking about Ukraine in any way shows that he was never committed to finding a true solution. If the chickens in the hen house keep going missing, it would be like hiring a fox to find them. Comedians are really essential right now, as Trump's furious reaction to Colbert's mockery shows. In the face of politicians' attempts to fool us with ridiculousness, comedians use comedy to cut through the crap and show us the reality. When Colbert says that our last president's diplomatic skills were about as effective as trying to put out a fire with gasoline, he is doing more than just making jokes.